Hi, welcome to our June webinar. Sorry, Marketing Mastery for Nonprofits. I'm Sally Mildren, the CEO of Boss Lady Consulting, and we're really excited to talk to you, share lots of practical tools and tips to help you expand your reach, grow your revenue, and better tell your story. So I remember this day like it was yesterday, and it's been decades. I was on a merry-go-round with a friend. We were hanging on the outside using just one hand to hold on and thought we were having a great time when the boys showed up and decided they would spin us like as fast as they could. And I'll admit, at first it was a little bit exciting and kind of exhilarating, but after a couple seconds, it was not fun. And I was like panicking because we were having a hard time holding on when I hear my friend scream with every amount of gusto in her, "Stop the merry-go-round, I want to get off." Now, I know that this story is decades old, but the feeling is so similar to how I feel with marketing some days. The algorithm changes, Google, the channel updates, the new features, the AI, the privacy rules, all the cookies going away, but not really going away, and now they're going away. It just makes you feel like, stop the merry-go-round, I want to get off. And so today we're going to talk about how to control the speed of that merry-go-round for you, and hopefully give you a few tips that will help you market smarter and protect your time and resources and be able to really dial in on what's most important for you. So we're going to talk about the state of marketing real quick. We'll talk about your brand, your target audience, your content marketing, some tactical shifts that you need to do, and then we have resources and a Q&A. A lot to cover, so we're diving right in. So the state of marketing. For the first time since 2010, the Giving Tuesday last year in 2023 was donations and donors were down. First time in 13 years. Their attention is at an all-time low. People are, certain parts of our generations and the audiences we're trying to reach are just over the phone. They're over the talking, they're over social media, and attention span in general is down across the board for us. Platforms and channels are changing faster than we can keep up with, and there are new releases and changes nearly daily as people are competing for this new AI world and changes in consumer habits. And in our experience with nonprofits, the ones we've worked with, and have observed, a lot of nonprofits are falling behind because they're relying on the same old tactics or approaches that they've always done. They haven't stayed up to date with some of the changes. And there are a lot of really exciting things that can help you market better as an organization. I saw on Reddit last week a question from an arts nonprofit in Florida, and they had relied on a single corporate government grant for the majority of their funding, 90% of their funding. And the government just decided all grants were frozen. So now what are they going to do? What's their plan? And that's why I want to talk to you today about marketing and mastering it well, the basics of marketing, and it will help you avoid that very situation. So can anyone relate to this? Our goals and expectations handed to us are maverick, the highest, best, most elite results, and your budget is the little toy plane. If anyone can relate, this is the true reality of nonprofit marketing. So we're going to dive in right away and talk about your brand. There are some things about your brand that are really important. And you might see this bullet and go, what? Mission and vision, of course. Of course, we're all about that. But has your mission and purpose been reviewed lately? Is it still accurate? And how are you tying that into your marketing and your brand message? When was the last time you looked at your brand holistically? Is the logo, the look, the font, the colors, the message, your tagline, are those still aligned and helping you fulfill your mission and purpose and reach the right people that you need to be talking to? For us, we, as an agency, this is one of the first things we do with a new client or with folks that we're serving, is that we take a look at the brand. We do the audit. We look at what is their unique value proposition. And, maybe you're one of 10 nonprofits in your community serving those with food insecurity. There's still something about you that is different. So you have to be able to know that as a marketing professional in your role. What is it that makes you different? Is everything else then aligned to your purpose, your mission, and your unique value proposition? Does your collateral, your website, your social media, does everything align to those things that you say represent who you are? I think you might be surprised how often we get a little bit off course from those things and just do content for the sake of content, and we end up not really being able to truly see our mission and purpose in everything that we're putting out there. Your website needs to be reviewed regularly. It needs to be mobile optimized. Are you paying attention to where people are going on your site, or are they getting there and bouncing immediately? That would indicate a problem with your messaging. So you want to make sure that you're doing the brand checkup, that you are objectively looking at who you are as an organization, what you're saying, what you stand for, and are those all aligned? And then, do you really need to take a look at all of your creative, your taglines, your message, all of that, and identify, are you capturing attention? So this photo is one that I took. I was volunteering for a farmer's market in a rural area, and they wanted all the vendors highlighted. Well, we could have had 12 different photos of the same exact booth of fresh vegetables and organic eggs, but instead I visited the farms and we got pictures of how their animals were living and give you kind of a behind the scenes story to who the true vendors were of this organization. And it made a big difference. It was way more engaging and it captured attention better than just a beautiful image of fresh fruit. So you need to also be looking at, with your brand, be looking at your strategy. Have you reviewed your strategy to ensure that it's aligned to what you just talked about? Your mission, your purpose, what is your unique value proposition? That's going to help you strategically know, who are you supposed to reach? How are you supposed to reach them, and where they are? But to start with, one of the things that we want to do is to talk about, a strategic checkup. I reject the idea of doing more with less. I think it's kind of a load of bull. We instead have to do better with less, because you can't do more with less in most cases, particularly when your budget's already small. If you've gotten a hit to resources, to staffing, or to a budget, you can't continue to do everything. So that's why it's so important to do a strategic checkup. When was the last time you looked at who your competitors are and what has changed? Now, I know, before you reject, there's no competitors. We're just all here for the good of everybody. Yes, there is. There are competitors who are competing for the donor's dollar, who are competing for the volunteer's time. Where are the people you're trying to reach going, either for those services, or going for to give their time, going to donate? Those are who your competitors are, the things, the causes, the organizations, nonprofit or not, that are taking that attention away from the mission you have to fulfill. You need to take a look. And so important, and this probably should have been first, was when was the last time you verified your goals? Now, I know the board comes back and says, we're going to raise $1 million this year. And last year you only raised 200,000. Okay. So if that's the goal, then you need to have broken it down and identified, where is this extra $800,000 coming from? Are we going to do half of it from individual donors or a quarter? Are we going to build new partnerships? Are we doing more corporate business in kind? Are we going after, more legacy gifts? Whatever it is that you're doing, you need to know what your goals are. And that is important to be verified from your executive director. If you've just had a change in staff and there is a lot of turnover in leadership in nonprofits, verify your goals with the new executive director. Verify your goals with the board of governors if you have, or board of directors if you have access to them. Do leadership interviews with the key people in your organization and ensure your goals are the ones that they all agree are the right goals. Now, you also are going to want to do a messaging audit, and we'll get into that in a minute, but really for content, the messaging audit is critical to be able to guide what is the right thing to say for the right people. And you need to evaluate your resources, the systems you have. Make sure if you've got a duct tape and tinfoil system of this program and this program and this one that you're trying to do your marketing with, make sure that they're helping reach the right people, that they're going in the right direction, that you actually need them all. Often this is a really important place to say, what is my goal? How am I going to get there? Is this piece of technology helping me get there? And when you've set the goals, you want to make sure, obviously, that you know exactly what measures. What is the definition of success? If your goal is, we need to increase individual donations by X, then how are you going to break that down? Is it by number of new donors? By increasing existing donors to give a monthly recurring? Is it getting new in-kind donors? Whatever it is, make sure you know exactly what those measurements are that are going to be success. And then this all will help you prioritize the work that you're doing. When you know the top 2 or 3 goals of your organization and your marketing investment and resources are all pointed in that direction, then this other event comes along and wants you to set up a table and hand out brochures. You're going to be able to vet, does this new opportunity get me closer to these goals and the path that I need to take to be able to meet my goals? It helps you prioritize, because remember, we're not going to do more with less. We're doing better with less. The things that are moving you toward the strategic goal. So here's a sample. This came up during COVID, where parents didn't have accessible childcare or affordable childcare. They didn't have quality childcare when everything got shut down. And so this organization, abcquality.org, they really worked on their messaging. This is the kind of communication that can drive behavioral change, and that's what we need in nonprofits. But if your brand isn't aligned and and it's not targeted to the right people, if your message is just kind of meh, you'll just become more of the white noise. You'll be lost in the sea of sameness. And so when we work with clients, this is part of the brand audit we do, where we look at is the messaging aligned? Is it hitting to the right people with the right message simply? And is it moving them to take actions? In this case, the TV spots are like a police guy interrogating a witness. He goes, I'm calling in John. And John comes in with a little infant strapped to his chest and he's kissing the baby. It's brilliant, simple, effective messaging that tells you exactly what is going on. Well, in this campaign, there was a 13% increase in participating providers. So 13% more childcare organizations came on board, and 65,000 scholarships were awarded for childcare for people who needed to return to work and needed care for their children. So let's talk about targeting the right audience. And if you think your audience is for everybody, you're targeting all men and women ages 18 to 75, you don't know how to target an audience. Sure, your services may be available and relevant to anybody, but for the sake of marketing, just marketing to anybody is a fastest way to guarantee you will get no notice. People want to know that this is for me. And you can't do that for a Gen X and a millennial and a boomer with the same message. So you've got to know, if your target audience is like this, I could pretty much guarantee your marketing is a one size fits all, and it's not very engaging. So to understand your audience, you have to look at the data. You have to know who's in your donor database. When's the last time you looked? Who's giving or not giving? Who's volunteering? Which ones have dropped off? Is there any kind of trend or insight you can find in this donor database? If you're seeing that 80% of your giving is from the silent generation and the boomers, you better get in gear to find a new donation base among the millennials and Gen X, among Gen Z. You've got to know, what does the data look like? What trends are you noticing? The silent generation, they're like 80 to 99 years old. They aren't going to last forever. So if those are the ones that are falling off, you have to know. We've relied on this generation for 40% of our cash donations. Then you better be paying attention if they're falling off at 10% a year. Okay, so within 4 years, you will have zero of that money. You just have to know what is the data, and then also be paying attention to, is the audience that's in your donor base. Okay, now we know our purpose. We know specifically what goals, what our unique value proposition is, and what our exact messaging is. Is that the audience that in your donor base? Are they the ones that are going to help you reach your goals? So it's really important that you pay attention to the existing data that you have. I worked for a nonprofit, and the volunteers were average age of 82. And it was a pediatric nonprofit. So, while they are really helpful and big-hearted, our average age of volunteers was so exhausted. They couldn't get on the floor with kids. They couldn't relate to the parents of young children who were bringing these kids in. So we had to pay attention and do something about it. So what in your approach needs to shift? Do you have what it takes to engage or interest your target? What do your donors and your audience want or expect? Well, how do you know that? There's a lot of data available. So we want to make sure that everything you do is driven by data, not just somebody's good idea. Everybody has a good idea. Everybody's a marketer. Everybody knows how. But when it's an idea, even from the board or the executive director, that isn't targeted to help you move the needle on your goals, you're going to have to learn how to manage expectations and help guide them in understanding this is what the data shows. In 4 years, we will be out of 40% of our cash donations. So our goal, these donors are already loyal. We will retain them, but we need to grow an audience base of millennials and Gen X who will pick up where this boomer audience is not able to do it over the next 4 years. So I'm going to touch briefly on this, and I won't go too deep into it because our next training in July is on love languages of donors, and we will go way deeper into how to connect with and retain donors into your organization. So it's important to know the silent generation are like 79 to 99, and 88% of them give to a charity. They're the ones who want the direct mail and the mailing labels. They want a phone call, and they give through those channels. And their values are around that personal connection, around that traditional form of communication. But the baby boomers who are, 50, 44, no, sorry. They're 20 years younger, so they're 60 to 80. 72% of them give to charity. This is almost a quarter of the population. And they are prompted to give a quarter of them from direct mail. So again, direct mail works. They're more geared toward religious and universities and healthcare charities primarily. And they feel this sense of responsibility to give back. Now, these two generations of 60 to 100-year-olds make up 71% of all US giving. Holy cow. So what I'm talking about, if you are relying on the individual donations of these two generations, you have got to expand your donor base. So maybe your messaging needs to shift. Maybe you need to change your strategic plan to nurture and keep these donors as long as they're available, but you've got to have a targeted, specific approach that is going to bring along younger donors for you. Gen X, these are the, this is my age range, 44 to 59. These are the ones that serve the most on volunteer hours. So, okay, if I'm looking for volunteers, I'm going to maybe target Gen X. Email is the number one thing that prompts them to donations, 31% of them. They prefer to give online. So while these first two generations want to give by mail or a phone call, this group is looking for online giving, as is Gen X, as are millennials. So, this group is really more inclined to give toward environmental, educational, and children's welfare. Those things resonate very strongly with Gen X. And, they are looking for causes that directly impact their community. So if you're a local food bank, pay attention. If you want to you might want to put that in the context of, in Santa Fe, where I live, 60% of the children at the public schools don't have enough food to eat. So the food bank here completely leverages that child welfare story to get Gen X folks to volunteer. I volunteered there myself. They're all Gen X and boomers, and they're the ones that contribute as well. Millennials, 84% of millennials give to charity. You hear them talked about like they're just selfish, spoiled children, but they do give. It's less amount than the older generations, partly because they don't have as much. This is 26% of the population. And 47% of them, half of them, gave through the website. So back to our earlier question, when's the last time you looked at your website? Is it easy to give? Is it easy to give online? We've worked with a nonprofit that did not have an online giving option. You had to email and then get a link for PayPal, and then it was so cumbersome. and ridiculous. And there are free programs. Trust me. If you need to know, email us and we'll give you the links to several free programs that make it so easy to give. It's just silly not to have online giving. You know, millennials are really more geared towards smaller or grassroots or social enterprises. So they love that. They're the ones that are going to be, hey, make a donation to this meaningful charity for my birthday present. They are the ones that are going to engage in peer-to-peer fundraising. Gen Z, you know, they're younger. They're 12 to 27-year-old. They're very tech savvy. So again, is your website mobile optimized? Can they give online? They really are inspired by images or a message they saw on social media. 59% donated because of social media. And then Gen Alpha, who are young, but they're being influenced right now by their parents' values and their online engagement. And their early indicators are showing a real focus on global issues. They care about the future of our planet. If you want to get your Keep Plastic Out of the Ocean campaign noticed, how can you involve families that have Gen Alpha kids that can make a difference? So I want to tell you, when you are identifying your target audience, it's not only the classic demographic measures, age, gender, etc. There are so many ways to identify your audience. And I think sometimes when we get that men and women 18 to 75, it's because we're thinking about it wrong. But what you really need to do, and this will help you having identified your unique value proposition, is who are you specifically serving? Maybe it's by location. Maybe you are serving, you know, age elementary school children in Santa Fe who do not have access to a warm, healthy meal every single day. Now that's going to hit on location, age, and stage of life or challenge. So think about the ways that you might break your audience down. Could be language, could be an interest. I saw a post for introverts who live in this rural town in Montana to come read together at the park. Silent reading for introverts. Okay, that's an interest for them. And it also takes into account their personality and what feels safe for them. You know, they may be having the same challenge or same stage of life. We saw earlier the birth control thing. That is the same challenge. Young female women, most of whom in that particular instance were African American, they didn't know they had choices to free birth control. And it's made a huge difference. Stage of life, it may be parents or caregivers of parents with Alzheimer's. That's a different stage of life because now they're carrying up and down. Could be something like that. Donation habits, your belief. What are they for or against? You know, if they're for background checks for gun rights, or if they're against the privatization of public lands, whatever it is that you can identify, what are the things that bring your audience from everybody to some? And then also, of course, personality, their loves, their interests, cheese lovers. You know, I heard a story about a gal who moved to London and had no friends. So she started the London's Lonely Girlfriends Club, and they met every other week, and they've got 35,000 people participating. So what is the interest? Maybe they're just lonely and need something to be part of. Consider all the ways your audience may be alike. Oh, this is the birth control one. Sorry, I spoke to it earlier. So this is an organization, Choose Well. They are talking about, and their URL is nodrama.org. So they're talking to young women, primarily African American, who didn't know that there is an option for free or low cost birth control. So really relevant message, playful and related to the younger generation they're trying to target. You know, put a ring on it, cute little play on Beyonce's song. But it also is super relevant to the audience. It gets their attention and they come in. So this top row is the cover, and then the second row is the call to action for digital ads. They had some print ads and billboards and other things that, you know, don't let these old men choose your birth control. It's really important. And this crystal clear target of young women, unwanted pregnancy, they wanted to stop that. They reduced the unwanted pregnancy by 40%. And 1 in 3 young women in their target connected with them in the entire state of South Carolina where this was run. Here's another one. This one's super cute. Big brothers, big sisters. You see the little people airplanes in the back of the pews. And it says, if part of you's tempted to throw this, there's someone you should meet. And then the cut the cheese. When you stop laughing, there's someone you should meet. So now this organization is appealing to the 12-year-old inside of people that didn't quite grow up. And the ones who get it are the ones they're reaching out to. The goofballs, the silly ones, my twin brother. And in the small text, it says, don't apologize, put your immaturity to good use. Brilliant. It's brilliant marketing that targets it down to a personality type. And so this is another good example. So for content marketing, people need to see your content 5 to 7 times before they even remember you. And there are other stats that show that consumers are looking in 7 to 11 areas before they even engage with an organization. So your content is important, even if you aren't getting viral engagement every time you post. So don't stop your messaging because you think it's overdone. Keep at it. I think as marketers, we get bored with our own message and feel like we're being really redundant. It's exactly what the consumer needs. Remember at the beginning, we talked about attention span as at an all-time low? Precisely. We need to continue with our message over and over again. There's a quote by Simon Sinek that says, the goal is to feel a part of something, not just play a part in anything. It's really important to your content marketing that you narrow in your message and that you really get clear on who you're talking to. Just like that Boys and Girls Club one, so cute. If you, as soon as you stop laughing, there's someone you should meet. We've got to be able to get in on our messaging that is precise and targeted exactly for who it's intended. So for content marketing, these stats on these next few slides are from the Hootsuite Social Trends report for 2024, specific for marketing, and then there's some that are specific to nonprofits. This one is consumer survey overall, and it's important to know in your content. First of all, like we said before, the merry-go-round is spinning and there's new features every single day on social media. We're sharing stuff back and forth with our team, and it's like, at some point I just had to stop because I felt like it's just so overwhelming. You can't keep up. So the thing you need to know about nonprofit content is that conversations about giving have continued to grow on social media and online giving accounts for 20% of total global giving. So that's social plus online through your website, 20% of the giving. So do you have the ability, like this one nonprofit? No, we don't want online giving. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. You need online giving if you want to reach anybody below 80 years old. So come on. Content has to be relevant and give the consumers what they want. You see on this chart on the right that 34% of consumers feel like brands are too focused on self-promotion. We've certainly been guilty of that as an agency, and we're constantly testing what is that right balance of not being so demure that nobody ever knows we want them as a customer, but also not being overly promotional. So there's a really important balance there. You see these stats that, they want to make sure that there's good content, that people don't engage with the comments and messages online, or they're really slow to respond to them. The nature of social media is social. People want relationship. So give them good content that they want and be relatable. 53% of consumers wanted brands to be more relatable on social media, and 40% of them felt like you were being too corporate or insincere. Have you ever been on a call with a customer service rep and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that's happening to you"? And today I was on a call with a customer service rep and she literally read the script word for word. "I'm really sorry that you're facing this experience. I'll do everything in my power to help you." And while it's a great sentiment, she said it exactly that way 3 times in the span of about a 5-minute phone call. So it kind of exposed her. Okay, this is a corporate script. So you want to make sure that you are relatable, the content's essential, and integrated campaigns are really important. In fact, in our work, when we did one touch point, it was like más o menos, kind of 8%, response rate. Second touch point, it went up to about 14%. When we did a third touch point, the action that we were asking for increased to 40% from our audience. And so it's important that there's integrated campaigns and more than one touch point. So on content marketing, again, the key is being relational, not transactional. That you are building trust, and trust is built most easily from storytelling. We worked with a nonprofit in a healthcare social services nonprofit, and they could not produce a single story, not a single testimony. They've been in business for decades and had 0 stories of the impact of what my donations did or whatever. And so it's really important that you have a story that is relational, that helps build community, that helps find your passionate supporters and enlists them in helping tell your story, because your content is so valuable. It builds trust. It's connecting the dots of who you are and the impact you're having for their community, for your state, for the globe, whatever it is. So it's important that you are relational. And I have this sentiment: connect, not collect. I think so many of nonprofit pages have reduced to just, "Hey, come to this event. Give to us for Give Big Tuesday. Oh, we're having this fundraiser. We're doing this thing," whatever. And the whole of marketing has been reduced to transactions. And that is not what people want anymore from brands. It's important that you experiment with platforms, that you're doing, you know, who your audience is, then you could see, where are they? I want to be able to connect with them where they're at. If you're looking for the silent generation, they're probably not on TikTok. If you're looking for Gen X, emails might be okay for them. They're definitely good for boomers. But if you're looking to engage millennials and Gen Z, they don't answer email. They have an email account so they can enter for drawings or get something, but then they never answer it. It's got 20,000 unread emails in it. You're just part of the noise. So experiment with the platforms on what works. Video content is so important. There's a stat I saw earlier that 95% of what's in a video is remembered, as opposed to 10% from a text post. Video content is vital. It's the most engaging thing in a lot of cases for our clients, but it's not always video on Instagram. It's sometimes or video on this channel. It's got to be something you're paying attention to, using in a consistent way, and being able to show the story of who you are. Again, you'll hear it 100 times. Create value consistently. That is the path to trust. That is the path to building relationship with donors or volunteers or the people you're serving. And that is the most important thing. Make sure you're listening. You know, in this nonprofit survey, we looked at people wanted to be entertained on social media. So make sure it's not all stuffy and too fluffy. There needs to be something lighthearted and a peek behind the scenes or a funny thing or whatever. Make sure that you aren't just doing what you think is best, but that you're listening and giving the consumer what they want. So the last thing is, I want to ask, how are you connecting your overall organizational goals to the stuff you're doing in content? Is your goal to increase individual donors in Gen X? Then maybe you'll connect them to an email list and then they will get your email newsletter. Is there a way you can connect them to other channels? Go to YouTube to watch or to do a quick survey or whatever. Make sure you know it's not just content for the sake of content, but that there is a reason why you're putting that content out. And the last thing is measure the right thing. Make sure you're not just focused on money. Social media, by and large, is not, I mean, you saw one previously that 47% of the millennials who gave were triggered to do so from social media posts. That's awesome. But it should not be relied on to be your primary social media, your primary donation channel. It's relied on to build trust, and then they will give, connect, then collect. So make sure that you are, paying attention, that you're tracking what you can, that you know how your social media connects to other measures. We measure a click and link. We measure how many went to a website, if they shared it or whatever. Those are important things to pay attention to on if your content is relevant and engaging to your audience. Okay, so nonprofits are most confident in Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Makes sense. This top one, Be Real, it was only 7 respondents in the whole survey. So 100% of them who even mentioned Be Real were engaged with it, but that's not statistically valid. So I honestly don't even know anything about Be Real, but identify your best channels, focus on those. Don't try to be everywhere. Don't try to do every platform. If your organization is really about advocacy and policy and legal, that kind of stuff, X makes a lot of sense for you. If your organization is really about more social service or something like that, then it may not be the best place for you. If you are a global environmental organization looking to increase donations and partners, Instagram's going to be really important, but it needs to have really good images. So you get the idea. And I want to just put in a little note here that it used to be that every content was exactly the same across platforms, and that's no longer an effective strategy. You don't just cut and paste. Sometimes you can do that, but for the most part, you need to adjust and do some kind of nuance and change, reformatting, shorten the text, the image, whatever it is. Okay, here's an example of integrated marketing, how they did this well, this content thing. And I want to show you this video real quick. So cute. So Goodwill has historically processed 15,000 tons of donated goods every year. And they had seen a decrease of it. And so they did this really playful, integrated message that really was speaking to people's want of purging, of simplifying. This was during COVID, and I think it's brilliant. You can drop it off 7 days a week. Your cups runneth over the edge of the cabinet. Drop off, 4 bedroom, 3 bath, no breathing room. They have this rec room, the W&K fly off, less static, more attic. So they did this really playful integrated campaign on billboards, on digital, on video, on social media, and their donations increased 12% as a result of this campaign. Simple, effective. It was targeting exactly the people who are like, have a huge house and no room for anything, but there's not hardly a mom of a toddler in the world that can't relate to that video we just saw. Okay, so tactical shifts. We're gonna do this real quick. So search marketing, oh, Google. Talking about the merry-go-round, here it is. The bottom line of all search marketing is this idea of EEAT, which is experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. What does that mean? Make helpful content. Don't let AI write it all for you. You have to kind of balance that. But the bottom line of everything for the algorithm, for search engine rankings, for all of those things is that you need high quality content, that you need to have a positive user experience on your website, and that your page quality needs to be good. If you do those things, you'll be fine. The AI summaries, I think you probably have seen, I put a sample here, that now Google is summarizing in the cases they think it's important, what that topic is, and then the listed sources are right below it. So in this case, SEMrush, Moz, and Yoast, who are all SEO tools. Makes sense. They probably all have blogs about this content. So the AI summaries are great. It's supposed to help user experience. So far, I've heard a lot of pushback that they don't like it, and it may impact the traffic numbers to your website, but it's important to just know that helpful content is the most important thing here. It's also a way that some smaller SEO and organizations that aren't Google can show up in results. If you have good authority and you've demonstrated expertise in a topic, then you should have more opportunity as well. So author profiles and bylines, it's gone back and forth. About a year ago, people were saying had to have them, so important to search rankings. They're actually saying now it's not that important for search rankings, that they're really looking for quality content, but I think it does support your authoritativeness and your expertise, but it also helps the user know who's this by and what are your things. So the bottom line is you don't have to have them for search ranking, but maybe it's a good UX for your visitors. Privacy changes, the cookieless world that's been going to go away and not, and go away and not. The pop-ups, they're on every website now because of the, European Union and the changes there. If California has different rules, it's just a lot of stuff. And these privacy changes are needed for consent. But I want to tell you, be authentic about it. I've been on some websites that are like, accept all or don't come into my website. It's like, well, okay, I won't come into your website. I mean, don't be so strong-armed about it that you can't, unless you're really doing well enough that you can just hang up on all that traffic. And then search ranking influences and algorithm changes again. High quality content is your goal. So AI and marketing, super quickly. It's amazing. It's helpful. It can make you more productive. It can help save you time. But, there shouldn't be a replacement of humans. You need the human creativity and the human empathy to review this content to make sure it's correct. There is a thing called AI hallucinations where the AI machine like just makes stuff up. And sometimes it's really wrong. If you've seen the images with 5 thumbs, you know what I'm talking about. So just make sure, you know, the percent of increase among nonprofits for use of AI here is in this chart. Really high intention to implement AI, and it's just some rules of thumbs. Use it to be more productive, to do research or analyze, for creativity hacks, but it should never replace humans. You should have a policy around how you'll use AI. If you need a sample, let us know. And then human versus AI tasks. By and large, rule of thumb, the really repetitive things should be AI. You know, upload a document or copy and paste a page and ask it to pull out any discrepancies in X or whatever. And there's amazing AI tools. So it's also interesting that there was a different study that showed generations, if they knew that a organization is using AI, would you engage with it? You know, strongly agree and agree. 33% of boomers said they would, and 28% of Gen X, millennials 22, Gen Z 20. Interesting, the younger generations are a little more suspect of AI. And they're less likely, so they're less likely to engage, sorry, I said that backwards, less likely to engage if it's AI. The older generations were, a third of them were less likely. Gen Z, 20% were less likely. They're less likely to trust it. Same thing, boomers, a third of them won't trust it. Gen X, 27, millennials, 22, Gen Z, 21. So it's just something 1 in 5 are going to be less likely to trust it and engage with it, up to 1 in 3. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're leveraging AI in your organization. So your brand can stand out. You've got to be able to strategically identify what makes you different and who you're trying to reach and what message resonates with them. And hopefully today was helpful to give you a few ideas on rising above the noise and competition. This is our time for Q&A. If you want to put them into the chat, that's great. We do have a whole resource list of some of our favorite places to find data or insights or programs. There's a lot of resources that will offer you free or discounted things as a nonprofit, and so that will come with the notes. And our next webinar will be on July 17th at 1 o'clock Mountain Time, and we're talking about the love languages of donors. We're going to dive into how to engage donors and improve loyalty and go deeper into that bit about the different generations and the different things that motivate donors. So we hope that you'll join us. So thank you for joining us. We will be excited to send you the notes. And if you have questions, feel free to email us. Bye. Thank you.